Welcome back to American Agenda, funding the Taliban. Today, President Biden met virtually with G20 leaders to discuss financially backing the organization. This, even though the Taliban itself said it would not help the United States fight Islamic State terrorism. Joining us now to discuss is Texas Representative Pat Fallon, who's of the Armed Services Committee. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time today. To begin with, I heard part of what Jen Psaki had to say earlier, and she was going through the numbers. She said this would be $64 million plus the $330 million, bringing the total number that the United States is putting forth would be $333 million. Your thoughts on whether we should be providing any aid at all to the Taliban?
Well, Heather, thanks for having me on. And absolutely not. We should cut them off completely. They have an abysmal human rights record to begin with, and then they just announced that they don't want to aid at all in the fighting of terrorism and the eradication of ISIS-K in the country. And my fear would be any funding that we gave them, whether it's in actual hard money or if it's in goods, would be that would just empower this regime, because we've seen this the world over with Somalia and North Korea. A lot of the times, food and medical supplies are power, and the regime, the Taliban, are probably just poured it to solidify their position.
Yeah, I'd like to also get your reaction to this. Here's what the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki had to say earlier, commenting on the U.S.'s role itself in Afghanistan. Listen.
Well, we recently announced nearly $64 million in additional humanitarian assistance in advance of today, I should say, for the people of Afghanistan. The United States is the single largest humanitarian donor in Afghanistan, providing nearly $330 million this year alone, and we will continue to take steps to alleviate the suffering of the Afghan people and call on other donors to step up their contributions to help deliver critical assistance.
That was exactly what I had just described as the amount of money. I thought maybe she had said something else on Afghanistan, because a lot of folks questioning, what is the United States doing at this point to get people, U.S. citizens, green card holders, and U.S. allies out and to safety, because by some accounts, there are still U.S. Americans there, and U.S. citizens, I should say, and that the State Department is not doing enough to help get them out to safety. Do you have any information on that?
Well, first of all, her comments are incredibly naive, Heather. I mean, criminally naive to think that we're going to be able to help the Afghan people and the conduit and facilitator is going to be the Taliban. That is, it would be laughable if it wasn't so dang sad, to be quite honest. What we were fearing when we were getting our briefings, both public and classified briefings about Afghanistan when the Biden administration decided to pull out permanently, was our fear, and many members of Congress, we were fearing that the Americans that were left behind would be used as hostages, and the Taliban would demand payment, ransom, if you will, and they would do it in this kind of a manner. Oh, we'll just cloak it and say it's humanitarian aid. What the Biden administration has proven to the American people is they are not telling us the truth on what's happening on our southern border, and they have not told us the truth on what's going on in Afghanistan, even to this day.
Yeah, and there's no way that I believe that aid will find itself to the people who truly need it there in Afghanistan. I can say this now because this family is out of what had been deemed a safe place, a safe house. They were using a particular hotel in Mazar-e-Sharif. The Taliban came into that hotel in Mazar-e-Sharif just last week, took a man from one of the rooms, and then threw him from the roof of that hotel. That's the Taliban that we're now talking about giving this humanitarian aid to. That happened for a fact. And then they laid this man out in front of the hotel as a means of warning for others that they knew were there hiding in that hotel, waiting for safe passage out of the country.
No, they're murderous bullies. And I mean, these thugs have had a history of shooting women in the head for dare conjugating verbs and actually being literate. They treat women like cattle. They don't respect minority rights at all. And if you dare have a different opinion, you're going to probably get the business end of an AK-47. We should not be funding them. The Biden administration has fumbled this ball repeatedly. And now there's reports, credible reports, of Chinese activity and a presence at Bagram. And that just breaks my heart. It's
What
awful.
do you know? What do you know about that? Because I've asked a couple people about it, and they so far still can't confirm. And I know because we didn't leave any troops there, confirmation for things like that is difficult. But the word had come that there were Chinese warplanes flying into Bagram, and that the lights were turned on for the first time since we left.
Yeah, and that's the problem when you leave Bagram and we don't have the eyes and ears. We'd forget about the human intelligence, but we don't have a space there. And taking drones and flying them, 80% of the drone's fuel over an 8-hour trip is expended just getting over the site. And they can only stay an hour or two. So I'm a former military member, and we have some contacts. And I can't confirm it 100% yet, but it's pretty dang incredible that there is a Chinese presence at Bagram.
That would be unbelievable. There's this other report that the oversight Republicans have urged DHS and the OIG to investigate Afghan refugee vetting and resettlement. Do we know anything more about the initial people who were able to get out of Afghanistan and whether appropriate vetting was done at that time? Because now there are reports that some of the vetting is being slow-walked because of the problems that initially happened in the State Department not doing their job and appropriate vetting then.
Yes, and we got a briefing when we were still in Afghanistan. We were pulling out, and they said that they were going to have a robust, and this word liberals like to use a lot, and it scares me. They're going to have a robust 3-dimensional vetting process. And so I thought about then, Heather, and I thought we're going to probably have somewhere between 20 and 60,000. I think it's a higher end now, about 60,000 Afghan evacuees have come to the United States. And they said, because of the chaos that was there at the time, they said that we'll make sure that it's only the people that we know who they are, et cetera. But I had a suspicion that this regime or administration, whatever you want to call them, wasn't telling us the truth. And lo and behold, that is indeed the case. And what they did was rather clever. I asked that question again, and how many people were sent back, but they did it in a classified setting, so I can't share it with you. But the truth will come out, and the American people will be very angry.
Interesting. All right. Congressman Pat Fallon, thank you very much for joining us, and let us know when you can share that information with us.
I will, Heather. Thank you. God bless.